Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Circle of Enemies, a 20 Palaces novel, by Harry Connolly. Narrated by Daniel Thomas May. Chapter 1. It was August in Seattle, when the city enjoyed actual sunshine and temperatures in the 80s. I'd spent the day working, which made for a nice change. I'd just finished a 40-hour temp landscaping job. Dirt and dried sweat made my face and arms itch. I hated the feeling, but even worse was that I didn't have anything lined up for next week. As I walked up the alley toward home, I passed a pair of older women standing beside a scraggly vegetable garden. One kept saying she was sweltering. But her friend didn't seem sympathetic. Neither was I. I was used to summers in the desert. When they noticed me, they fell silent. The unsympathetic one took her friend's hand and led her toward the back door, keeping a wary eye on me. That didn't bother me either. I stumped up the stairs to my apartment above my aunt's garage. It was too late to call the temp agency tonight. I'd have to try them early Monday morning. Not that I had much hope. It was hard for an ex-con to find work, especially an ex-con with my name. I'm Raymond Lilly, and I've lost track of the number of people I've killed. My ancient garage sale answering machine was blinking. I played the messages. 2 were from reporters, 1 from a journalist blogger, and 1 from a writer. They offered me the chance to tell my side of what happened in Washaway last Christmas. Except for the writers, I recognized all the voices. They'd called often over the last few weeks, sometimes several times a day. I absent-mindedly rubbed the tattoos on the back of my hands. They looked like artless jailhouse squiggles, but in reality they were magic spells, and without them, I'd be behind bars. None of the survivors in Washaway could pick me out of a lineup, and none of the fingerprint or DNA evidence I'd left behind pointed to me anymore. I was on the twisted path. I erased the messages. There was no point in calling them back. None of them understood the meaning of the words "fuck off." The sounds of their voices had triggered a low, buzzing anger that made me feel slightly out of control. I showered, then dropped my work clothes into the bottom of the tub, scrubbed them clean, and hung them from the curtain rod. I felt much better after that. I wiped steam from the bathroom window and looked out. My aunt had not hung a paper angel in her kitchen window. That meant I could order a sandwich for dinner. I put on my sleeping clothes, a t-shirt and a pair of cut-off sweatpants. I could eat alone, in silence, without someone asking how I was sleeping, how I was eating, and wouldn't things be better if I went to talk to someone? I wouldn't have to say thank you, but I can't, a half-dozen times. My aunt was right. I'd probably sleep better if I could talk about the nightmares, and what I'd done to bring them on, but I'd be bedding down in a padded room. I opened the bathroom door to dispel the steam, even though an unlocked door felt like a gun at my back. Then I turned to the mirror and looked carefully. Damn, I was wasting away. A voice behind me said, "You look like shit." I yelped and spun around. In an instant, my heart was pounding in my chest as my hand fumbled across the sink for something to use as a weapon. Caramella was standing in the bathroom doorway, and I was so startled to see her that everything went still for a moment. My adrenaline eased, and I could hear my harsh breath in the silence. It had been more than 5 years, and she'd changed quite a bit. Her skin, which had once been so dark, seemed lighter, as though she spent all her time indoors, and while she still straightened her hair, now she had it up in a bun. She wore orange pants with an elastic waistband and a white halter. She'd gained some weight, and she seemed taller somehow. But she didn't belong here in Seattle. She belonged down in L.A., hanging at the Bigfoot room with Arn, Robbie, and the rest. I almost asked her what she was doing here, but I didn't want her to think she wasn't welcome. In truth, I didn't know how I felt about her. "Welcome to my bathroom," I said. "Thanks. I hate it." I nodded, but didn't respond right away. Her hands were empty, although she might have stuffed a gun into the back of her waistband. Not that I could imagine why she'd want to kill me, but that was how my mind worked now. "I'm guessing you're not here for old time's sake." We don't have any old times, Ray. She turned and walked into the other room. I followed her, noting that she didn't have a weapon under her waistband. Then why are you here? I kept my tone as neutral as I could, although I had less self-control than I used to. I'm paying a debt, she said, as though it was the most bitter thing in the world. I have to deliver a message to you, in person. She stopped beside the efficiency stove. Okay, here I am. She looked away. Her lip curled and she blinked several times. Christ, she was about to cry. You killed me, Ray. I gaped at her, astonished. She turned and slapped me on the shoulder. Then she did it again. That still wasn't enough, so she slapped my face and head 4 or 5 times. I didn't try to stop her. Finally, she stopped on her own. Hitting me wasn't bringing her any satisfaction. You killed me, she said again. And you killed Arn, and Leonard, and Ty, and all the others too. We're all going to die because we knew you. Melly, what are you talking about? Sorry, she said with a wet sniffle. I looked for tears on her face, but her cheeks were dry. That's the message. That's all you get. She swung at my face again. I flinched, but the blow never struck. When I opened my eyes a moment later, I was alone in the room. I had been standing between Caramella and the door. She couldn't have gotten around me and gotten out, not in the time it took me to flinch. I walked around the little studio anyway. She was gone, vanished in the blink of an eye. Magic. She had magic. Damn. My cheek and scalp were sticky where she'd slapped me, and the stickiness was starting to burn. I went into the bathroom and washed my face and head. I could feel a smear of acidic goop that was so thin I couldn't see it. Plain water washed it away completely. My clean skin was slightly tender, but the pain had eased. I checked the wash rag, but it didn't have any unusual stains or smells. I hung it over the kitchen faucet. Crossing the room, I took my ghost knife from its hiding place on my bookshelf. It was only a piece of scrap paper, smaller than the palm of my hand, with a layer of mailing tape over it and some laminate over that. On the paper itself was a sigil I had drawn with a ballpoint pen. It felt alive, and it felt like a part of me, too. The other magic I had, the tattoos on my chest, arms, and neck, were protections that had been cast on me by someone else. The ghost knife was my spell, the only one I had. Then I took my cell phone out of my sock drawer. After the mess in Washaway, an investigator for the 20 Palace Society met me on the street and slipped me a phone number. They trusted me enough to give me a way to contact them, which was damned rare, and I knew it. The society was a group of sorcerers committed to one end, hunting down magic spells and the people who used them, then destroying both. They were especially determined to find summoning spells, which could call strange creatures to our world from a place referred to as, variously, the empty spaces or the deeps. These creatures, called predators, could grant strange powers if the summoner knew how to properly control them. Too often the summoner didn't know, and the predator got loose in the world to hunt. I was a low-level member of that society, but except for my boss, Annalise, who had put the magical tattoos on me, I knew very little about it. How many peers were there? How many investigators? How many wooden men besides me did they have? Where were they based? Where did their money come from? I had no idea and no way to find out. The 20 Palace Society took its secrecy seriously. I hadn't been invited to secret headquarters, hadn't trained at a secret camp, hadn't been given a secret handbook with an organizational flowchart at the back. When they wanted me to do something, they contacted me, and they told me as little as they could. What I did know was this. Peers live a very long time, centuries in some cases, and the magic they use has left them barely human. Oh, they look human enough, but they have become something else. And they were bastards, too, ruthless killers who took a scorched earth policy when it came to predators and enemy sorcerers. As a group, they didn't seem to care much about collateral damage. They had their reasons. A single predator let loose in the world
Sample complete. Ready to continue?